changing my focus here. I still look good? Okay, cool. Thank God for F4.
5, 6. Is it 4?
No, it's 4.
Okay. Well, shall we?
We shall. Oh, we
really,
timed that wrong.
Really trying to time it with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dead Sailor Interrogation. Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Deschaine, and with me is also Tyler Deschaine, daddy of Tenet.
Episode whatever, I don't know what it is, but probably should have been episode 1, right?
True. Doug, what number episode is this?
I think we're on like 12 or 13 or
Dang.
something like
We haven't done enough of these.
I know.
Everyone
Life
that's
gets
been on
crazy.
has to come back on. Anyway, hi,
It gets
it's
really
me,
good.
Blake, and now I'm your host of the Dead Sailor podcast for once, and probably only for once, because our guest is Tyler.
I would
And
argue that that's probably not the case, but
maybe I'll get to host again. Obviously,
I
I'm
think
doing
ideally,
great so far.
Ideally, you'd probably host forever. It'd
You
be
heard
sick.
it here
Maybe
first.
who knows? Maybe you're gonna do such a good job that
Everyone will hate you?
We can.
Put
you
you
can
back
just
to
take over, and I
operations?
don't have to do it anymore.
Well,
Just kidding.
You guys can vote. Who do you like more?
Yeah. Comment down below.
Welcome to your own podcast, Tyler, the
Thank you.
daddy of Tenet. We have been waiting for this moment for a couple of years now.
Yeah. I mean, how long have we
Actually,
been
that
doing this
long.
podcast for?
It's not that long. But
You were the first episode.
I was the first episode, so this makes sense. And we've got a lot of questions for you.
Yeah.
But because this podcast has a history of being in chronological order, we're going to kick it back just for a minute.
Kick it back for a minute.
Do I want to change it up sometimes? Yes, but we're going to kick it back first.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how you pilot this ship. I mean, I know you're a great person to do it.
I'm a great person.
to pilot the ship, but
All right.
I'm curious where you're
Well,
going with this.
Tyler, where were you born? When were you born?
Well, how about I introduce myself first? That's
Yeah.
probably a better idea.
Well, whatever you want. It's your podcast.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Deschaine. I am the owner, or one of the owners of Tenet Components. We are a small crew here, but
Very small.
you know my voice because I've started this podcast with Blake. I kind of ran it for a while, and then Blake came once you moved here. We took over, and Blake, you actually were the one that brought up the idea of interviewing me, and
That's true.
I think it makes a lot of sense for people to kind of learn about the company. The whole idea was with this podcast was for people to learn about who the people behind this company that make it tick. And we never once talked to me. So no, I guess we'll just go
We
there.
truly don't know how it ticks.
Yeah. Well, maybe
I
we'll
know how
learn
it ticks,
maybe we'll learn a little bit today. But
Yeah, I'm very curious about a lot of good things,
yeah.
some bad things.
So back to your original question, where was I born? Arizona, from the South.
I thought you were a Midwest guy. We're going to get there.
Yeah, I only lived the
Give it
first
to
couple
us.
of years of my life in Arizona. My parents are both from Michigan, and they wanted to get the hell out of Michigan and go to warmer weather. They went to the polar, extreme difference, so they're in Phoenix, and it was wicked hot. And then I think after my younger sister was born, we moved. My parents moved all of us back to Michigan when I was like 5 years old. So I really don't remember much of Arizona, but spent most of my life in growing up in Michigan. So yeah,
That's a fun fact, though. I actually didn't know you were there. You were
Yeah.
born there.
I was born there. I
For
lived the
5
first
years.
5 years of my life there.
Okay.
I barely have any memories of that area. I got my first BMX bike there.
That was actually my next question.
There's a really funny video of the neighborhood kid. Like my family has a funny family video of the neighborhood kid down the road. It's like me trying out the bike without training wheels for the first time.
Oh.
I think it's without training wheels, and then the random neighborhood kid gets on it and just takes off, and I'm just standing there like, without a bike. Like where is he going? Is he coming back?
It was his bike or yours?
It was my bike. It was
Okay.
a Kent BMX bike,
Kent.
and it had training wheels.
Who was doing the Kent back in the day?
It was like a Walmart brand, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, before, like early on.
Yeah.
I remember the Kents
Yeah.
from being a kid.
Um,
Okay, you were in Arizona. This went
mhm.
down.
Yeah.
And you guys moved to Michigan, which is where I thought it started.
No, yep. I moved back to Michigan when I was like 5 years old. We kind of bounced around a little bit while we sort of figured out where we were going to live. And then, I came from like a middle class family. Dad worked a factory job. Mom was a nurse, and she kept
Nice.
going back to school and trying to get further into medicine, get more degrees and whatnot. So very working class family that just, parents are always working. I had 2 sisters, grew up just kind of like entertaining ourselves a lot,
2 working parents kind of thing.
Yep.
Nice.
And then, we eventually landed in Delton, Michigan, which not many people will know where that is or what that is. It's just
No.
a tiny little farm community, right in between. It's sort of there's a triangle. It's like Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, and Battle Creek. They're like the 3 big cities on the southwest side of Michigan. Delton's kind of like smack dab in the 4 of those 3 in the middle of that triangle.
Got you.
So Kalamazoo is probably like the closest city. So when I was like coming up in my years of riding bikes and stuff like that, that was where I sort of did all my street riding. They had a skate park there and whatnot. But Delton was a very tiny, tiny town, like 120 people.
What was your distance to like the big towns in either direction?
2.5 hours
Oh, so
to
a minute.
Detroit, and then 2.5 hours to Chicago, pretty much.
How
I think
about
it's like
those
2
smaller
hours.
ones like Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids is like 45 minutes.
Okay, got you.
Kalamazoo was 30 minutes, and then Battle Creek was probably 30 minutes.
What were the kids up to back then?
Oh, man.
What were people doing in Michigan?
In Delton, Michigan?
Sure.
Boy, grew up with a lot of, we had a small school. We have small groups of different people in different genres, but because it's a small community, we actually all kind of mostly got along. A lot of the kids in my school, you're the sports guy, the stoner, the skateboarder, the whatever, you kind of fell into the nerd, the band person, whatever, you kind of like fell into whatever genre, but because our school is so small, you really didn't have a choice to like stick to your like crew, or else you'd only have like 5 friends.
So everyone was friends.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I was a bit of not a chameleon. I don't know. I got along with everybody. I was kind of a
Yeah.
class clown.
That was me too.
Yeah, I sort of bounced between groups, and I was I was sort of that bridge between the jocks and the skaters, and we used to always party, like all party together, and like have house
Nice.
parties and stuff in high school, and it was actually a really cool place. I mean, a lot of the people that I went to high school with, I'm still in contact with today, all these years later.
Nice.
They feel like the closest ones feel like brothers and sisters to me, like they're like actual family. So, but what we got into, there wasn't, our town was less than a mile long. We had like one grocery store, one gas station, the post op. It's like, imagine just driving through a tiny farm town. There's not a lot going on. But we had pretty much one of everything. And, when I first got into BMX riding, or discovered BMX riding, which is amazing that we can get into that story, but like there was just no street riding or anything in town. There was a couple like 3 stairs and stuff that you could like session, and there was one other kid that was older than me that rode BMX bikes, and I was kind of the only one in town that became passionate about it. All my other friends were skateboarders, and we built mini ramps in our yards and stuff. Well, that was the cool thing about living in a farm community, is there's like plenty of space to build dirt jumps and like have
Do
skate
outside
ramps and
stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
What kind of graduating class we talking?
120 people.
Whoa.
100.
Okay,
Actually, it
and
was like
you
more like
went-
130 or 135.
You went like through school.
Oh,
Middle
yeah.
School, high school there.
Yes, elementary, middle school, and high
You
school.
guys were like a no-move family.
Yes, and a lot of the kids I graduated, the same story. Like,
They're still there.
I graduated. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people there are some people who still live in Delton that grew like, their family, they raised their families there now. My mom went to the same school that I went to.
Damn.
Went to Delton. That's why we went back there, was because we wanted to be closer to family. And my, my grandfather and stuff lived in, what was that noise? But yeah, my grandfather lived in Hickory Corners, which is like right next to Delton, and so we were like close to family one time.
So you were like that classic like farm suburb out there.
Oh yeah, for
kinda
sure.
kid.
Yeah.
Where'd you get your inspo?
Kids drove tractors to school.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Whoa.
So like there'd be a John Deere tractor parked in the parking lot.
No.
Yeah, that's serious.
Dang.
Yeah,
this is
pretty
fun to
funny.
learn about. I actually never knew this about you.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get your inspo for like bikes then? If no one else was around you doing it, Were you like a dreamer kind of kid.
So in like elementary school, I had like a different group of friends kind of all through different years of school. But in elementary, I hung out with this kid, Chad McPhee. Shout out Chad. He's not listening to this. He probably has no idea what I'm up to or anything.
Chad.
But I would go over to his house and spend the night. Like, he was like my best friend at the time. And you probably know this. You're my age, roughly close to my age.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the only friends I knew that had a satellite dish, and we're not talking little satellite that mounts to the roof of your house. We're talking the giant 8-foot satellite
I
in the
always
front
wondered
yard.
what those got you. Like, what's up
Every
with
time
that?
you change the channel, the whole dish rotates
What?
and like points in a new direction to get like a different channel, like slowly moves. So every time you change the channel, it takes forever to
Oh my God.
for the channel to come in.
I'm a suburb kid, so we had like everything we needed.
Yeah.
I don't understand still. Like,
I'm-
was this a service like Dish Network?
I mean, we're talking, I don't know what service it was. Who knows what that was? It might have been Dish Network back in the like early beginning of Dish Network. But let's see here. We're talking like third grade probably.
Yeah, we're talking like early 90s.
Yeah, I don't even know what year this is. This is like, in the 90s.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he had the satellite dish, and who knows, that dish might have been from the 80s. Like his dad could have installed it, and
Yeah.
they just like rocked it until it
That's
was
crazy.
obsolete or whatever. But we used to go like down. He had a playroom at his house, so we'd go down in the basement and play video games and whatever. And there was a box for the dish outside, and we'd change the channels and like watch whatever, when his parents went to bed. And
Box for the dish outside.
yeah, like a box on top of the tube TV that.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, so it like.
This is a podcast about satellite dishes.
We're getting there.
Perplexed.
We're getting there.
I'm perplexed.
Yeah. But one night we were just scrolling through channels and came across, it was probably like ESPN 9 or some shit, who knows? So like a very obscure ESPN channel, maybe it was 3 or something like that. And they had a DK dirt circuit, like BMX
Oh, sick.
competition on there.
Forgot about that brand.
None of us had ever seen, I had never even known what that was. And we watched it in dudes in full face. It was a single jump. Everyone was just like hauling ass. And we're talking probably like, Matt Hoffman, Dave Volker, like are the people that are riding and doing like in this contest. Who knows who was actually riding in those contests at that time. But we saw this on TV and we were like, God, we were so stoked on it. We're like, holy shit, this is like amazing. I mean, I don't know if we were swearing, but we were kids, but we thought it was so cool. And I had a 20-inch like Walmart Murray bike, a brand called Murray. And it was like one of those bikes that came with a bunch of plastics to make it look like a dirt bike. You know what I'm talking
nice.
about? It was like a KTM kit that
This
came.
is funny. This is funny because I remember the story of you saying that you always wanted a dirt bike, but you couldn't get one.
Yeah, I always wanted a dirt bike for sure.
For whatever reason. So
We
parents
just
got
didn't
you
have
that?
money. Yeah, we didn't have money, and so like.
We'll get you a bike that looks like a dirt bike.
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
And so like so anyways we got so stoked watching that video or whatever that DK dirt circuit, and ended up going outside and built there was just a pile of dirt behind his dad's shop, and so we like scratched in tried to emulate what we had witnessed, like scratched in a lip, put on his dad's like dirt bike helmets, full face dirt bike helmets, because they're all wearing full faces in there. You know, we wanted to look like them, and we just pedal and hit this jump and crash and
landing.
It was a mound of dirt, so you just
go off the mound.
Yeah,
Nice.
but we had like it was nighttime, so we like put up shop lights outside. His dad had like
Sick.
shop work lights, so we set them up with like to shine on this pile and like.
Oh wait,
rode
so
it.
you guys watched this thing and you're like, let's go right
Yeah,
now.
right now.
Sick. That's like
That's
your
how
classic
stoked we
kid
were.
story. Did you guys do the recycling bins with a piece of plywood too later on?
Oh yeah,
Nice.
yeah. At one point, so we'll get to kind of that era, but we can kind of speed along a little bit. Anyways, I discovered BMX on that. I thought it was super cool, and then weirdly enough, there was our elementary school library had the magazine section, and
They got
I have
magazines in
no
there?
idea. Yeah, it was like kids magazines, and I have no idea why or who or whatever. But there was in Delton, Michigan, at this tiny little elementary school, they had BMX Plus in there, and
Nice.
I discovered it, and so I like checked it out and was like so excited. And then I would check it out every single month that the new issue would come out,
Oh, sick.
and it just snowballed from there. But shout out to whoever that librarian was like, let's bring in this BMX magazine, you know, and who knows,
cool.
maybe it was like a Scholastic, you know, sales rep that was like, oh, the kids are loving this in the city.
Probably, honestly.
Yeah. But anyways, and then my grandma, she like started, my birthday present every year was a subscription to BMX Plus or Ride BMX.
Nice. So you
and-
got into it with the magazines, which is
Yeah.
how we all got into all of it
Yep.
in
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, you would scour the magazine page to page, study the things you couldn't see. Like there was no video. I didn't know that there was like you could buy a DVD or a VHS to
Yeah.
like watch bike videos for a while. So I would like study these photos in BMX Plus and try to replicate them. And when we ended up moving, my parents ended up building the house that we lived in, and there was a bunch of scrap wood left over from the house, like us building the house. And I turned it into, I just tried to like build ramps. I saw some of the photos of my ramps. Oh my God. Like so sketchy. Like we're talking like stacked pallets and then like,
You should free cover
plot.
those photos. You should go get those.
There are some, my mom is going to be listening to this and she's going to be like, oh, no, I've got those. I'm pulling those out.
Mom, you don't want to bring those out. Let us know.
But anyways, the photos are just amazing. They're
Sick.
hilarious, and it's just me trying to figure it out. Right, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like okay, I can tell that the ramps have like a transition in them. Like how do I replicate that? And so I would like take like sheets of plywood and just like tilt them, you know. So it's
Nice,
like
classic.
so it's like good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was, I don't know, it was fun trying to figure all that out. And then it just, over the years, you know, I just started to get more and more into it and discovered videos, and through the subscriptions that I would get, you know, I'd buy DVDs and VHS tapes and then DVDs, and then just kept, getting into it. And luckily, you know, my mom, like, I love her to death, and my parents are really supportive of my interest in BMX, and my mom, you know, was like, oh, well, you know, I'm happy for your birthday if you want bike parts. And so
Nice.
every birthday for so many years, it was always a demolition sprocket or profile cranks or whatever, you know. I'd like, I always wanted like something special, you know, and I learned to work on my bikes and just started kind of like upgrading my own BMX bikes, you know.
Nice.
So.
Did there become kids, like other kids in your neighborhood or whatever, that
No.
were doing that?
I was the only kid in my town pretty much that rode BMX bikes.
Dang.
Meanwhile, all my friends were skateboarders, and you know, we would build mini ramps, but we'd always, you know, we started learning how to build ramps, and some of the first ramps were terrible. And then at one point we like everyone had this shitty mini ramp that was like either too steep of a transition or whatever, and we ended up tearing them all apart, combining all the wood, recutting the radiuses, and building like a really fun 4 foot tall,
Nice.
16 foot wide mini
Dang,
ramp
a
with
real
like
ramp.
a 6 foot extension and a sub box. And it was like big enough that a bike could ride them, because for a long time they were only like 8 feet wide and like 4 feet tall with like
Yeah.
a vert transition.
Where'd this thing live?
My buddy Mike's house.
Nice. So
Yeah.
Mike's house was a spot.
Oh, it was the spot. That's where we like partied. It's where we swam he lived on a lake, so we like
Nice.
swam in the lake. We'd take the boat out. We'd go wakeboarding. We'd go,
Ooh.
ride the skate the ramp and ride the ramp, and it was
Nice.
it was a good spot to grow up. And honestly, we're really lucky to have that. His mom and dad were they were the cool parents that were like, okay, we know you guys are gonna like, you're teenagers. You're going to be drinking, you're going to be experimenting with drugs. We just want to make sure you have like a safe place to do it, you know?
Yeah, every like friends group had that.
Yeah.
That set of parents.
Yeah. So
What was the girl situation like back then?
the girl situation.
Did you guys ever have any girls that were like skating or shredding?
Sadly, no.
We never did either.
yeah.
Like maybe a few.
You know, I think looking back, it's just, it just wasn't, that era wasn't really,
Yeah. Especially probably in a small town, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I can think like Nina is the like first female mountain or BMX rider that I can ever remember seeing.
Nina Burrito.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's
And,
your actual last name?
Nina.
I only know her as Nina Burrito.
yeah.
Sorry, Nina. Not that you listen to this podcast, but
Yeah. I had met her before. I used to I bounced back and forth between Michigan and Austin, and I would ride the T1 ramp, and when she was always coming around riding the ramp and stuff. So I met her a handful of times. She probably wouldn't remember who I was at all, though.
she's probably met a lot of people.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Probably met a lot of Tylers.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Okay, that's fun. So when did like mountain biking get into the picture then?
Oh, way later. I actually
later?
haven't really. I started riding mountain bikes probably in like 2012.
Oh, okay.
So like, I was pretty die-hard BMX for many, many, many years. Yeah, as I was saying, like eventually I started riding in Kalamazoo. We go to KZoo Skate Zoo. My mom used to take me there and drop me off.
KZoo Skate Zoo?
Mm-hmm. That's the local skate park.
Sick.
Still kicking, longest indoor skate park in Michigan. It's super sick.
That's sick.
Bill Ferguson runs it. He is he's also a super good skateboarder. Used ex-pro, like pool skater, like
OG guy.
OG pool
Sick.
skater.
Shout out to Bill.
Yeah, there was he like knew all the pros, and they had like a demo there with Tony Hawk and stuff way
Nice.
back in the day, like in the 90s, you know.
Sick.
Yeah, Bill is super cool. Even to this day, he's awesome. If I go home and like bring my bike, my BMX bike with me to ride the park, he's just like, oh yeah, just you don't gotta pay anything, just ride. You're supposed to have like a membership and stuff to
KZoo
ride
Bill
there.
just lets you in, huh?
He's a really good dude, and he's just been doing it for so long. It's actually amazing. Like since the early 90s, and still kicking, and it's
I wonder
pretty
what
cool.
that looks like. Like, there had to have been some crazy years where he was just like, we're going to keep it going. We're not making any money.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a passion project for him at this point. I don't really know, like, what, I'm sure he has his wife, I'm sure, brings in enough revenue or whatever. But the park, I mean, they have the website is so outdated. It's literally like a 2001 website, even to this day,
Nice.
with like horrible banner ads and stuff. And
Oh.
he's got these webcams, and they're still live and they're active.
Oh, that's sick.
And I used to, like, when I would want to go session there, I'd be like, oh man, how busy is it today? And I'd pull up the webcam on my computer, and I'd like I was like, oh, sick, nobody's there. And then I'd go, because sometimes that place got packed.
I wonder if that was a blessing or a curse for him, or if he gave a fuck.
He probably didn't care. Yeah. I don't know. But, no, yeah, it's a really, really cool place. It's where I met all my BMX buddies. My buddy Jeremy Ball, who kind of like mentored me over the years. He took me under his wing and just sort of taught me every trick I know.
Nice.
He was definitely the guy. But I had like a bunch of other friends that like Josh Wilkins and Andy Dowdy and a bunch of people who we used to go on road trips and go to Changa World and the Flow Skate Park and Flow 1 and Flow 2 and Changa 1, Changa 2.
Multiple flows, you heard it here.
Really amazing Midwest parks that that aren't really around anymore. Maybe Changa 2 is still around. Changa 1 is no longer around. Changa 1 was a cool skate park because it was like an old shopping mall of some sort, and the ceilings were super low, and they actually took out it was a drop ceiling, and they took out the panels for the box rhythm. They took out the panels that in the ceiling that were like above where you would jump. So you would jump in. So as you're jumping through the box rhythm, you'd like go into the ceiling. Like
but they still left like the framing?
The framing was gone, but that your head would literally be above the ceiling panels. So it's like
you could
dark.
like look ahead and see the ceiling panels? Oh my gosh.
In there. So you'd like hit the box jump and your head would be like, it'd be all darkness up there. And then you'd land, and then you'd hit the next box and your head would go into the ceiling panels, and then you land. It was
That's
trippy.
wild. There's like a new place in Vancouver. Have you been yet?
I have been, yeah.
Do you think they should do that? Do you think
Their
there's anything
ceiling
there?
is fairly tall.
It is, even though it's a drop ceiling.
Yeah, I think if they really wanted like a big box rhythm,
Which they do.
Yeah, they would need to do that probably. But I've heard that they're going to expand upstairs possibly, and maybe
What's
the upstairs
upstairs?
have taller ceilings.
Mm.
They own both
Cool.
floors.
That's cool.
I think it's like an old Sears or something.
They have a foam pit?
No, they have an airbag.
They do. Is it good though? Can you actually
I
like
did
do
not
stuff?
hit the airbag.
Why?
It's like kind of off in the corner, and I don't know. I don't really like riding airbags. They just give you whiplash when you land. You know?
Ever since Eric went away,
Mm-hmm.
I've been like, do we need to start a place here in Bellingham, or
Yeah, it's kind of one of those
is that
things.
place gonna do it? Or
I think seasonality is the way like Ray's Mountain Bike Park
In Ohio.
in Cleveland does it. I think is the smartest way.
how do they do it? What are they up to?
They are only open 6 months out of the year, and then they shut it all down so that their overhead is literally like whatever. I don't know if they own that building or they lease it or whatever, but then it's just the lease of the building.
Simply the lease.
And then in the winter time they go full bore, and it's like events and everything to keep it busy in the off season. But in the summer it's shut down. It's like closed. They close the doors down. I feel like Bellingham would probably need something like that. I think in the
Maybe.
summertime people are so itching to ride outside that
Yeah, I guess that's like the secret weird thing about those of us who are like trying to progress and do something with the sport is there's never like a good
yeah. Like think about like
way to do it.
Whistler has the dome. What's it called? I don't know.
I don't know.
They have that
I've only
like
lived here for a year.
Doug, do you know what that's called?
Air dome.
Air dome.
The air dome.
And it's like it's like a giant dome building, and they have a foam pit,
That's
airbag.
in Whistler.
A resi.
Oh, cool.
But it's like a quote unquote training facility.
Yeah.
So you can it's just a roll in into a foam pit and then a roll in into a resi, same lip across both
Yeah,
sides.
sick.
And I think around the backside there's like a mini ramp and some other stuff in there. But that's open year round. But it's also Whistler, which I think is like, I don't know, Whistler and Bellingham. There's probably a lot of people here. If you were to, Bellingham just needs a mulch jump or something like that.
We need something.
Yeah.
All we have is
Which is
Hannah's
something that we
airbag.
tried to build. We can get into that a little bit, but Tenet tried to build one, but we just ran out of dirt and runway, so it wouldn't.
On
really
Galbraith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna get moved potentially, but I think they're putting one at Civic now too.
Really?
Yeah, there's
Like
gonna be
over by the dirt jumps?
Yep, there's gonna be a mulch jump there.
Sick. Who makes these decisions?
Whoever is digging on Civic and the WMBC,
Oh, do they run? Do they like?
I mean, it's
manage-
all kind of through.
manage
Yeah,
that
it's through the WMBC. The
Yeah.
WMBC, I think, oversees a lot of the legality and the
Cool.
the red tape, surrounding all that stuff. But yeah, anyways, we kind of got off subject there, but
Nothing's off subject here. It's all on subject. Okay, but we're gonna take it back just because I'm still curious about a few details about
Okay.
Tyler Deschaine.
sure.
So you grew up, you did the BMX stuff. There wasn't really girls, so you hung out at Mike's house with the boys, Dirty Mike and the boys.
Yeah.
And you went to school, though, because you became, what, like an engineer or something? What are you?
No, I never went to college.
You didn't?
Nope.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to fill in some details.
Okay.
So you graduated high school. What'd you do?
Graduated high school. At that time, I was super into filming. I used our family like camera. It was like a mini DV camera.
Sick.
To like film my buddies riding. We'd go on road trips and I'd record a bunch of stuff and try to like make edits. I was like learning to edit and stuff like that. And I actually used to cut a bunch of video like edits and stuff and send them to this dude Tom Arcus. I forget his. I think I'm butchering his last name. Sorry, Tom. But he ran this website called Vinyl BMX.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was like back in that time, every little area had its own scene, like crew. Everyone would like name their crew.
Yeah, I mean, it's still kind of like that.
Yeah, and so he would just, he was like, this was like before YouTube, so I would literally edit a video and then he would post it up on his website in a QuickTime player,
Nice.
And you could download it or play it right on the website. And so anyways, I was making these videos just from like going on road trips with buddies and stuff. And then really got into filming. My family, I was a average student. I was, a C's and B's kind of guy. And I just kind of hated school. It was just it was very tough for me to like stay focused on stuff. I was like, no, I just want to care about, all I care about is the things I care about. The things I were really good at, metal shop, wood shop, auto shop, graphic design.
Nice.
I took my first graphic design classes. We had a graphic design program in Delton, Michigan, which is kind of crazy to think about. We also had a video editing class that they like started, and then the teacher knew nothing about it, and I knew way more than the teacher did about like Premiere Pro. And so he's like, well, Tyler, you know more. Why don't you like teach these guys? So I kind of like taught people how to do some stuff. Yeah. It was kind of funny. But even like in biology class, we would have like a class project. We have to shoot a video or whatever. And I'd go way above and beyond in like green screen shit. And like, it's just like really funny, kind of ridiculous stuff. I was really into it. But I was terrible in like math and English. All of that stuff was just tough. If you had to read a book and write a report about it, I couldn't do it. It was just like not
couldn't hold your attention.
It just wasn't interesting to me. Yeah.
Did you ever get diagnosed as ADHD?
No, but there's been.
Should you have?
Maybe. Even today, I think a lot of there's people that would probably go, this might line up.
We had a hard time in the 90s. Okay, our moms didn't believe us. It was tough.
But anyways, when I graduated high school, my mom was like you got to do good. Like, we don't have money to send you to college, so if you want to go to college, you need to do really well in school and try to get scholarships or whatever. And since I kind of fucked off in school, scholarships were kind of out the door, And then I really wanted to go to Full Sail. Do you remember that video? I don't know if you ever remember that.
Yeah,
it was like a specialized video production
in
school.
LA.
Yeah, and they had one in Florida too.
Oh, they did.
And I really wanted to go there, but it was like $100,000. It was really expensive.
Yeah, no.
But they like guaranteed that you could get a job in the film industry or something. And then once I started really thinking about it and doing the like work to like figure out if I wanted to go, I realized that you had to pick a path in film. Like you had to like choose, I want to be a key grip, or I want to be a writer, or I want to be a director of photography or an editor or whatever. You had to like pick a specific thing, and then you go through the course, and then by the end you would get a job in the industry doing any of those, whatever, you
Oh
know.
my God, that's such a scam.
I know. I'm sure it's not around anymore.
Looking
so.
back, that's such a scam.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to teach you how to open up a C-stand, put a light on it, and we're going to teach you how to apply for your union.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's on you.
Yeah. So
That's psycho, 100 grand.
So I decided, I want to do all of those things. Like in my head, I was like, I want to be the creative one. I want to be in charge of the photography. I want to be in charge of the editing. I want to be in charge of all these things. I didn't want to be dedicating my life to one specific thing. I wanted to be in everything. And so, my mom was like, okay, well, graduation, the whole family kind of pitched in a couple $100 or whatever. I had kind of a big extended family, and so money from my mom and everything. I had about $2,500 that was raised up for my graduation money, and I bought a Sony VX2100 with a Century depth lens on it.
Oh, the depth lens.
Yeah.
If anyone has a depth lens out there and you want to sell it, call us.
Yeah, they're pretty
DM
sick.
us. Email us. I will take it. For whatever. I don't care. I don't have one right now, and I would love to get another one again.
Yeah. So I got that, and that summer after I graduated, I went to Austin, to Texas, to stay with my buddy Matt, who actually passed away a couple of years ago. It was really sad. But I went and stayed with him, and he was just super well connected. He's from Michigan also. He's super well connected to the BMX scene down there. He was good friends with Taj Mihelich and Joe Rich and all of these pro riders. And so I was like, oh, here's a great opportunity. I can get down there and meet these people.
Austin had quite a scene at the time too, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it still does, but.
Yeah, it was the BMX capital. It still kind of is the BMX capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much going on down there. There was 9th Street. There was East Side Woods, dirt jumps. There was the T1 ramp. This is before the new concrete park was there, but the street riding was insane. There's all these legendary spots that Jimmy Levan and all these people did some crazy stuff in, and all these video parts. And it was so cool riding around because you're just like, oh my God, Aaron Ross manualed up that to tail whip, and oh, Jimmy Levan jumped. That's the church gap. There's all these amazing spots. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I went down there and stayed with him for 2 months or something like that, like a long trip down there, and crashed on his couch, and he introduced me to all these people, and I just started filming them with the intention to make a BMX video. And I have all the footage, and I had filmed with everyone,
sick.
all of my friends back in Michigan, and I made a but we debuted the trailer and stuff and then I got cold feet and never finished the project.
What?
Yeah, I was too self-conscious. I was too scared about it, and it was I have so much footage of Taj and Joe shredding T1 and Ron Kimmler and amazing riders. Just tapes and tapes and tapes of footage.
At this point, I feel like it's time for a revival cut.
I know, it's been one of those things that I've been telling myself. You know what? I'm gonna go through, and I want to re-import it, because when I imported it back then, it was through Firewire cable, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and so the quality is probably not very good.
Yeah.
But ultimately what I would like to do is re-import all that footage on those tapes in the best condition, quality that I can, and then cut something together just for fun.
You should 100% do that.
I know that all the people that I filmed would probably appreciate it. It'd be throwback as all hell. I mean, we're talking, this stuff was filmed in 2006 through 2009, so it's old now.
That was a sick era, though.
Yeah.
I feel like I was still very much watching and following BMX back then.
Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to be a filmer. That was my dream.
Me too.
Yeah. So,
look at us.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah. And then, I kind of bounced back and forth between Austin and Michigan. I would go to Austin in the wintertime and come back to Michigan, work at a bike shop, and bike mechanic, and doing the bounce back and forth, and just sort of making ends meet and riding. That's all I cared about, was just riding bikes. And then eventually, my buddy Scott Town, who's also just an industry legend, shout out Scott. I hope Scott's listening to this. I owe him so much for how far I've gotten. Like I wouldn't own this company if it weren't for the path that Scott kind of helped set for me. And
sick. Let's go there.
Yeah,
Tell us about Scott.
Scott's crazy. He knows like Spike Jonze.
Whoa.
He used to work for BMX Action. He was like a copywriter, and he just like did a bunch of. He was in the BMX media and skate culture and stuff for a bunch of years, and then he was a Soltech rep, so he worked for Etnies, kind of like in the heyday of Etnies, like when all the Taj and Joe and everybody was getting Ruben Alcantara, they all had signature shoes. Scott was
Mike
working for them.
Vallely's signature
Yeah, those
shoe.
are the bomb.
I had
those.
those.
Are the
Those
best
are sick.
shoes. I wish I could get they should bring those back. That'd be so sick.
Ooh,
I'd rock
Henny's,
those.
bring back the Mike V shoe.
Yeah, it'd be so sick. But anyways, yeah. So he used to always just like hook me. I was the golden size 9.5.
Yeah, the sample size.
Sample size.
Nice.
So anytime I needed shoes,
I wore so many shoes that were like a size or two too big because they were sample size.
Yeah. So anytime I needed new shoes, I'd hit him up and I'd be like, "Oh, Scott, can I come?" And then he'd just be like, "Oh yeah, come by." And I'd go over to his house, and his garage was just stacked full of boxes of shoes, and he'd just be like, "All right, take what you want," And I'd go comb through, and he'd either hook them up for free or for hella cheap, like $10 or $20 or something. Because he back then he had to like, I don't know if this was normal, but he had to like buy the shoes. He had to pay for the shoes,
I don't know.
sample shoes.
I've never been a rep.
Yeah. So anyways, Scott, over the years has just always really supported me, and he's always given me, helped me out in any way he could. He owned a little clothing company called Deliverance, and I really looked up to him because he was very much like raw skate culture, punk, everything he did was very like passion driven, like, and to this day, he still does everything that's super passion driven. He sort of just marches to his own drum, and like, if he has a vision, he puts it forward and really sticks to it, and doesn't let outside forces kind of like change or direct him. He just sort of does his thing. He's super into motorcycles. He's got an insane museum of BMX bikes in his basement. He had dirt jumps in his backyard. We go over there and build dirt jumps. And
this is a Michigan guy?
Yeah. Yeah. He used to build, he used to throw a BMX contest at KZoo every year, and like a jam format. And he was a really cool dude. He is a really cool dude. He works for, I'm pretty sure he works for Dance Comp now, maybe, or he worked for Dance for a long time, and then he's worked for S&M. He's in Haro. He actually might be at Haro now. I think that's where he's at. So he's a very industry veteran.
I was a little Haro kid.
Yeah.
I loved Haro.
There's probably a lot of people listening that if there are people that are listening that are into that era of BMX, probably are familiar, or industry people are probably familiar with who he is.
Sick.
He's someone I would love to have on this podcast one day.
Nice.
Scott, hopefully I can have you on this podcast. It'd be cool.
If you're cool out there and you want to be on our podcast, DM us.
Yeah. But long story short, he eventually introduced me to Mike Hammond, who is the brand manager for the BMX side of Diamondback BMX. And so,
perfect.
Yeah. So getting into all I cared about was BMX riding. Good friends with Scott. Hammond reached out to Scott because Mike Hammond and Scott were really good friends, and reached out to Scott and was like, Mike was like, "Oh, I'm looking to support somebody in your area. Do you recommend anyone?" And so Scott recommended me, and then gave him my contact, and Hammond reached out to me, and then I kind of got on flow with Diamondback BMX, and so they just supported me with free parts and stuff. But when I first started talking to Mike, I told him, I was like, "Dude, I would just love to get into the bike industry outside of working in a bike shop. Like, if there's ever an opportunity for me to like work at Diamondback, let me know, because I think that's what I want to do. I want to get into the bike industry." And he was like, "Oh yeah, maybe something will come up, But anyway, so I bounced back and forth. And then right before I was living in Austin, or actually, no, right before I was going on a long road trip, I was coming out to the Pacific Northwest to ride BMX bikes, go to Linwood and like ride some dirt jumps, and then go to California and Arizona, and then finally land in Austin and just stay there for the whole winter. And he hit me up right before my trip and was like, "Hey, dude, I know you're coming out here. We have an opening. If you want to apply, put together a resume. I'm not saying you're going to get a job or anything." He's like, "But, you know, it's a good shot. Like, you know, take your shot."
Yeah, sick.
So I threw together a resume and sent it over. And then when I flew out there, I interviewed at Diamondback. I had swine flu on the airplane.
What?
It got so fucked up. I like quarantined myself in a hotel room for like 3 days because I was like fucking dying. And then I had my interview and I had the word, like I couldn't even talk. I was like talking like this, you know, like no voice.
Oh,
it was so
no.
fucked. But the guy that interviewed me was Chris Spire, who's actually now the vice president of REI, which is kind of
Wow,
crazy to think
cool.
about. So he kind of he kept working his way up the corporate ladder in the outdoor industry. But Chris seemed to really like me, and the rest of the Diamondback crew liked me, and I ended up going all the way to Austin and was trying to find a bike shop job down in Austin. And kept pestering Chris every like week. I'd send him an email, "Hey, any news? Hey, any news? Hey, any news?" Probably really annoying. And actually, Chris told me the reason they ended up hiring me was because I pestered him so much. He's like, "It was pretty clear you really wanted the job, and we wanted somebody that
What
really
was this job
wanted
for?
the job." So the title was assistant product manager, and it sounds like, whoa, that's a
Awesome.
high level job.
Yeah.
No, this
It
job
would be nowadays.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of the Grom of the Diamondback crew, the product
The
crew.
product team.
Yeah, the product and marketing department. We were really small. So when I worked there, I was like, when I got hired on, I think I was the 5th employee in the pod. And my job really was to do all the shit work that nobody wanted to do. Organizing that
Which
shelf.
at the time seems pretty
digging
perfect
through
for
this.
you.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
great.
that's what
And
you're looking for.
Yeah, and I was excited to do it. You know, it was really cool to just see the inner workings of a company, you know. And so I just kind of did whatever they told me, assemble that sample, you know, measure this, go do that, go do this, you know. And so I just kind of did a bunch of stuff. I was sort of a Swiss Army knife.
Diamondback was based where?
In Kent, Washington.
Kent, yeah.
Yeah. But
And
yeah.
What year would this have been?
This was in 2010 was when I moved to Seattle to work there. And
you
then
were doing BMX stuff still.
yeah, I was I still I had only ridden a mountain bike one time, and it was a fully rigid bike that I pieced.
Fully rigid?
Yeah, that I pieced together from. The shop I worked at in Michigan, Breakaway Bicycles was the name of the shop. Somebody had abandoned a steel Nishiki frame with a rigid fork, and so
Was it an actual mountain?
It was.
Right?
It was.
Nishiki?
No, it was. I mean, it was, but it wasn't any. It was like pretty
An
much like a
old frame.
Walmart bike. You know,
Dang.
had like V brakes and stuff. Anyway, so working at the shop, you know, all the guys, which that was one of the most fun jobs I ever had, was working at that bike shop.
For sure, same.
Just so many funny stories. I don't want to get too much into it, but we had all kinds of we just fuck with each other nonstop and pranking each other. It was just a good time.
Bike shops.
Yeah, and all the people that work there are just amazing people. But anyways, yeah, so I'd only been on a mountain bike one time. And when I moved to Seattle to work for Diamondback, it was, you know, nothing about my role was really mountain bikes other than the tech side of things, which I knew how to work on mountain bikes, having been a bike mechanic for a bunch of years. But I hadn't really ridden them, you know. It was mostly like working on them. You know, I knew how they work. I could bleed brakes and I could, you know, adjust derailleurs and do lower services and things like that. But I didn't know how to ride them really. And I didn't really ride them. When I first started working at Diamondback, I mostly rode BMX bikes for like the first year. And then I think it just sort of like being in the culture, you know, I was like, oh, I'm going to go for a ride. I was mostly intimidated because I was like scared of the uphill. You know?
Actually pedaling.
Yeah, I was like, man, I just don't think I have it in me.
Same to this day.
Yeah. So
I went for a pedal a couple of days ago. I had a nice time.
where'd you go?
Went to the top of Evo for the first time. I've never ridden Evo. It was fun.
Really?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun ride.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, so I kind of started riding, and when I first started working there, Billy Lewis, who was a rider on Diamondback.
Jebbins.
Yep.
Shout out to Jebbins.
Yes. We'll have him on the podcast one time too.
We should. I tried to text him today to get a guest question.
Oh yeah. He didn't respond.
I didn't have his number.
Oh shit. Well, I'm glad, because it would probably be something real embarrassing.
Anyway.
Billy and I have a long history
You
of
guys
working
do.
together and traveling together. But anyways, we, yeah, so he was riding on the team as a mountain bike, as a professional athlete on the Diamondback team.
Mountain bike.
Yeah.
Sick.
He was riding DJs and like our old scapegoat, the Diamondback scapegoat. So he was like our trick rider, you know, and he just like, you know, I used to ride here's my first Billy Lewis story. This is my favorite Billy Lewis story.
This is going to be good. Wait, we should say who Billy is really quick, just
Okay,
for reference.
sure, yeah.
Though I'm sure that the 50 people who listen to this podcast also know Billy,
Uh-huh.
but just give it to them anyway.
Yeah. So Billy is, he was a pro BMX rider, or not BMX, a pro mountain biker. He used to ride BMX.
Yeah,
he's
a
really good
killer
at BMX bikes.
BMX.
And even to this day, I actually rode BMX bikes with him yesterday.
I know. It looked fun.
But he, so he worked with me he rode for Diamondback, so we did a lot of traveling and stuff for that. But then he also worked for Raleigh for a long time, and then he left to go be a product manager and at Evil. So he worked at Evil for a long time, and then now he's a product manager at Transition Bikes.
Lives here in town.
He's got the sickest
Legend.
table you could ever imagine. His life goal is to get onto Tabe Lords.
I feel like either of you could. For the record, both of them have a table that is extremely impressive. There's a picture of Tyler in this room. Is that the Orca skate park?
Yeah, it's the Orca skate park, yeah.
Doing a Tabe Lords level table, in my opinion.
That was shot by Mike Lawless. Shout out to Mike Lawless.
Anyway.
Yeah, so
You guys are those
Billy,
guys that are like so good at BMX, but no one really would know because like everyone's looking at the big dogs, right? But like there's so many people that are so good, and you guys are two of those people.
Yeah,
Anyway, I'm just giving you that shout out because
thank
that
you.
table is sick.
Yeah, thank you. I'm good at key things. I can air
Sure.
quarter pipes pretty high. I could do tabletops, look backs, cans. I have like a handful of tricks. Tuck no handers. I can do those tricks, but I'm not like a tail whip, flip kind of guy. I can do 360s.
You didn't get super technical, but you got the basics.
Yeah, I'm more of a style. I was very inspired by Joe Rich, Mike Aiken. You know, like really styly.
Speaking of who you were inspired by, we're just going to throw this in right now. Doug, BTS, asks, Dave Mira, or Matt Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. What about them?
Who's your guy?
Who's my guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Dave was probably the rider that I really looked up to, or I really enjoyed watching, and he was like one of my favorite riders to watch. Hoffman is a completely another beast. I met
They are
Matt Hoffman
different
one
beasts.
time. Yeah, Hoffman's like a full-on stuntman.
Yeah.
Where Dave was like, he was so good.
He was a magician. He was a winner.
Yeah. He didn't, I wouldn't say that Dave had like the most best style or anything, but he was the guy that was able to link together the craziest tricks in his like X Games runs and completely just blow your mind. And
He was crazy.
yeah. But I was mostly into like really styly riders. You know, like Aiken was God to me. Chris Doyle, another one.
Chris Doyle.
Yeah, just like
That's a crazy name to throw at me right now.
Chris Doyle had the just most insane
Yeah.
table in invert, buzzing his shoulder. You know, just like So good. But anyways, back to Billy. Off topic here.
Yeah, let's talk about Billy because everyone who listens probably loves Billy.
What were
If
we
they
talking
don't,
about?
they
Oh,
should.
my favorite Billy story.
Your
Anyway,
favorite
so
Billy
we kind of
story.
know who Billy is a little bit now. But the first time I ever met Billy, I knew he was like a Diamondback athlete. I knew he was good at riding BMX or like bikes or whatever.
Small bikes.
Yeah,
Just call it
and
small bikes.
we were doing this product launch at Suncadia, which is this like place just over in Clay Elm, just over the pass, over Snoqualmie Pass on the other side. Anyways, we did this product launch. We rented out this hotel and whatnot. This was back in the heyday of Diamondback when there was crazy money. And so we built Nate Berkheimer, and shout out to Nate too, also someone I would love to have on this podcast. Really good BMXer, insane, goes so high. But back on the keep trying to stay on subject here. We built this box jump, and then Nate and some of the other like Diamondback athletes were like doing a demo, and we were just sessioning it, not in the demo, but we were just like having like one evening, we were just all riding it. And Billy was there, and he's like blasting it and, doing whips and stuff. And he looks at my bike, and he's like, "Hey, can I ride your BMX bike?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, dude." Like thinking like, I wonder how this is going to go, mountain biker on a little bike, literally cranks into the box jump and does the most cranked turn down right out of the gate. Like bars, like fully twisted.
Never rode it yet.
Just
Doesn't
first
know anything.
go. And I was just like, holy fuck, dude, what was that, And then we were just like best friends after that.
Nice.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah.
And then
That's
he and I proceeded to just, over the years, party and travel and have really good times together. We've been to Taiwan together and China and stuff and have some crazy stories.
Yeah, you do. That was a good tour. I feel like we learned a lot about you.
Yeah. And now we have arrived.
Sometimes you just talk.
Yeah, don't you know it?
Don't I know it? Anyway, I've got some questions here from some fun people, including myself.
Oh, this is a little intermediate.
Yeah, we're gonna bring it back before pre-Tenet still. Sorry guys, we're gonna get to Tenet. But today, there I was thinking about how to host a podcast because I've never done it, and I was like, we need some guest questions, so I'm gonna ask some pals. And I texted Hannah Bergman, your premier
Yes.
athlete.
Yep.
And she was out on a ride with some folks. And so I have some fun questions from her. Okay. Is it true that the movie Tenet by Christopher Nolan created one of your biggest bumps in brand exposure?
Yes, that is true.
Tell us really quick about the funny parallel. Don't make it long, though.
Fuck, I know. I have a hard time not making stories long. Well, there's a whole page on the website that covers it. So we can
that's
skip
true.
through a bunch of shit. And if you want to know more details, you can see. Oh, sorry. You can see. You can hear more about it, or you can read more about it online. Yeah. So Tenet we're probably like a year in, 2019, 2020, something like that. 2019. Yeah. So about a year after I launched the brand, I randomly got tagged in an Instagram post for a movie, like it was like Christopher Nolan movie or whatever, Tenet, and my first reaction was like, oh fuck, this is gonna be annoying. And then as time went on, I kept getting referenced in movie, like Tenet kept getting like tagged in movie shit, and there was somebody, I forget who it was, somebody sent me a link. Oh, it was like a customer randomly sent me a link. It was like, hey dude, you should read this Reddit article or whatever. And it was a description of a trailer that was for the movie Tenet, that it was a description of the logo at the end. They described the logo. So it was like the first time the trailer had ever been. Apparently there's a huge fucking cult following for Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And
He's Christopher Nolan.
yeah. Anyways, so there was like the description in this Reddit thread described exactly my logo. It said the T, a E, an N, and then a backwards E and an upside down T. And I was like, oh, fuck. Well, this isn't very good. So then eventually the trailer came out and I saw the trailer and I was like, oh shit, that's like literally the same logo.
It was almost like similar font too, eh?
Yeah, it was like a sans serif style font. If you want to see them side by side, there's a photo of it on the website under a letter from Nolan portion. But anyways, I wanted to get ahead of it, and so I just sort of I took their logo and my logo and made this Instagram post saying, we are not associated with Tenet. We've been around for, the movie Tenet. Obviously, we're not associated, but I just wanted to be like, look, we've been around for a long time. Like, we didn't copy this movie. Just wanted to get ahead of it so that people, if they came across my brand, they wouldn't just assume, oh, this guy's fucking just a giant Christopher Nolan fan, and he made a bike brand copying their logo.
That would be psycho.
So anyways, I posted it, and then Pink Bike follows Tenet, the Tenet Instagram account, and they messaged me, and they were like, whoa, this is interesting. Would you be willing to have can we interview about this? And I said, sure. So I sat down, did this interview, pretty much told you everything I'm telling you. Just all I really care about is I just don't want people to associate my brand with me copying Christopher Nolan when it's not the case. It's the other way around. And so that article went live, and then within by 5:00 p.m. that day that article went live, I get a phone call, and then Sky actually took a photo of my phone that says Warner Brothers on it.
Whoa.
And I was like shitting my pants, like, oh fuck, what is gonna happen? Am I gonna get sued? Is this gonna be a cease and desist? I had no idea what was gonna happen. Yeah. So I answered it, and they're like, oh, we're trying to contact Tyler Deschaine. I was like, yeah, this is Tyler. And they're like, we have a document we want to send you. What's a good email address? And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. And I gave him my email address. I was sweating. And then eventually the email came over, and it was a letter from Christopher Nolan laying out you can read it on the website.
Yeah. Give us the paraphrase just because people are listening.
Yeah. He essentially just said, I just want to let you know that I've been dreaming about making this movie for a long time. It's been something I've wanted to, produce for a long time. It's a concept of a movie that I've been thinking about for a very long time. And when we designed our logo, I had no recollection of your company. We didn't steal anything.
It was like you did it and we did it separately kind of thing.
Kind of like separate things. And he said, I really hope that, we can exist in the same space, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. That's paraphrasing. And then I responded back, and it was, to their legal department, essentially. And I just sort of reiterated my concerns, right? It was like, hey, I really respect your movies and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But, This is something that I'm really concerned about, because I think it could affect my image, as a brand. And then I decided to get a trademark lawyer, because I was like, okay, and we're kind of stepping into the realm of infringement, I do have a trademark for Tenet, and I just didn't want to say something to their legal team that would potentially make me liable.
Or get them a heads up, because they've got much more resources than you.
Oh my God. Yeah, they've got an endless pool of money,
so
right?
What'd you do? What'd they say?
So I contacted a lawyer, and they at a really large firm, and they initially I sat down with them, and they essentially said, yeah, your concerns are valid. You should be worried, and this is something that we can you should. They're not saying you should sue them. They were like, you avoid that at all costs. You don't want to get into litigation with Warner Brothers, or you're going to have it's going to cost too much money. You don't have money. And at this time, Tenet was making $12,000 a year. It was so tiny. It was it was a passion project,
Yeah.
But I was really dedicating a lot of time to it, and I didn't want to. I was really scared that my company was going to crumble because of it. And so anyways, they agreed essentially to just like review my correspondence with Warner Brothers. And so they read back and forth, read all my emails, read their emails, and blah, 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 and just gave me sort of legal advice. And it was all, the entire time, it was all very civil, and there was no threatening, any sort of threatening concepts or anything for it. And actually, at one point, they had me reviewing some of their alternate logo designs, which was I was like the guy in charge of the fucking Tenet movie, the Warner Brother movie, logo. Are you okay with this change?
Nice.
And so there's a little back and forth before they eventually just said, okay, well, what if we just spell it Tenet without the E and the T, flip the T, we'll just make it just read Tenet, as a normal written, typed, whatever word. And I said, yeah, I think that'd be good. And that's what they did. So now if you search Tenet, you'll see the logo is just written. It's not like our logo.
What do they call that thing? Like when you can
flip palindrome.
A palindrome. Theirs is not a palindrome.
I mean, technically the word is a palindrome, right. But the design of the logo is also a palindrome. Yeah. So
you changed their design. I mean, you strong-armed Christopher Nolan.
Warner Brothers. I get nervous talking about that because I just don't want the wrong person to hear and just I don't want to stir up any shit. I don't think
full
we're way past that.
Respect to Warner Brothers, Christopher Nolan.
I still haven't seen that movie though, which has nothing to do with spite. It's just everybody I've talked to is like, oh, you got to watch that movie 5 times to understand anything that's happening with it.
Yeah, it definitely seems like one of those movies.
Yeah.
I also have not watched it. We should watch it together.
Yeah. But I do really enjoy his movies.
Say yes. You'll watch it with me.
I will watch it with you.
Thank you.
Yes. The thing I was dreaming about actually was, I wanted an invite to the premiere. I wanted to be able to walk down the red carpet.
We're moving on. Next question.
Okay.
This one is from Daddy Doug.
Ooh, Doug.
BTS.
Doug.
Tyler, where is your micro HDMI cable?
Oh, fucking hell. I have no idea. We're still trying to find it.
When you're a small brand and you're only one guy, your stuff's everywhere.
Yeah.
You've got cords in all places. And sometimes you don't have the right cables to do the videos for this podcast.
No,
and it just makes Doug work extra hard.
It makes Doug's life harder. That's for sure.
Sorry, Doug. Thanks for making us look so good. So that's a worthless question, Doug, you fucking idiot. Okay, and on this last segment, before we talk Tenet, I, as your most favorite Tenet athlete and co-conspirator, am also a Pit Viper athlete, and I just got a fun Christmas present. It's the Pit Viper card game by Pit Viper.
Pit Viper. Is this our sponsor for the week, for the night?
You can actually buy this card game on pitviper.com for $12.99 right now before Christmas. And I think you're going to want to, because check this out. I got some questions for Tyler from the Pit Viper card game.
Oh my God,
this is
I'm so scared.
Pit Viper does not pay for this podcast, but I love them. And they did tell me that if I don't plug the card game, I'd get fired. Just kidding, they didn't. But I just think this game is really fun. So question number 1. This game basically is 3 parts. There's 3 colored cards. One of them is the icebreaker, so get personal.
Okay.
The next level is rants and raves. Just keep going. Just go on a rant. And then the last one
I'm going to be good at that one.
Yeah, you're going to be really good at that one. I'm going to have to stop you. The last one is bite-sized, so 1 word answers or less. And I'll tell you each one. So the first one, we're just going to go with the one that's on top. It's the icebreaker round. You're just going to get personal.
Okay.
So the question is, which player or participant at the table could you physically dominate in single combat?
In what?
In single combat. I'm assuming that means one-on-one combat.
Well, you would definitely take me down, so...
That's really nice of you to say, considering I'm the only person at the table.
I guess I could take myself down.
As the listeners, would you like to see a Tenet special of me and Tyler
There we
wrestling?
go. Yes.
Just let us know.
I'm into that.
That's funny. It actually didn't end up playing out as funny as I thought it would be.
You could try another one if you want.
No, we'll go
Okay.
to the second
Okay.
one. Okay,
Okay,
rants
okay.
and raves.
Oh, you're skipping
No.
that one.
I have to skip that one.
Knowing Pit Viper, you probably have to skip a lot of them.
This one's good. Okay.
All right.
Being a mom is the hardest job in the world, is often said by moms. But what do they know? Make a case for why your job is actually the hardest job
my
in the world. This is Rants and Raves. You can just
Shit.
go.
I'm gonna get canceled for
This
this.
is actually perfect because we're talking about Tenet. Why is your job the hardest job in the world?
Okay. Well, being a mom is hard, so I just want to say right out of the gate before I get into that all the moms out there, I respect you. But Tenet is very hard. I mean, I have to, okay, I got to do everything. I gotta answer customer service. I gotta pack orders. I gotta shoot photos for the website. I gotta do this. I do everything for the company, as we'll learn more. So, I go home and I think about the company.
You have dreams about the company.
Moms don't think about their kids once their kids go to bed. They forget about them.
No way. They would never do that. You are a one-man operation.
Yeah.
I guess on this question, since it's Rants and Raves, let's talk about Luke really quick.
Sure.
Luke is your business partner. He helps
Yeah.
you with product.
Engineering. He's the engineer.
Tell us about what Luke does.
Yeah, so Luke, I worked with Luke at Diamondback. He was he's a frame engineer, so he does suspension design and engine. He owns some patents. He's worked for a bunch of other companies like Santa Cruz. He's helped with transitions, kinematics and stuff in the past. Yeti, he worked with Yeti.
Yeah.
He owns multiple patents that are his own, but he just a really smart dude. And when I worked with him at Diamondback, we got along really well. We got shit done. And when I started the company, I just decided that I needed somebody that I could work well with that was also had really good ideas. And he is that person. I couldn't ask for a better engineer. He's a really good person to bounce ideas off of, and he is very much involved in the product development and the design. And he just trusts my side of the thing, which is running the business, and the image, the voice, all that stuff comes from me. And he's just like, all right, I'm going to make cool shit. And you do everything else.
But you still have a say in what the product looks like. And he designs
yes,
what.
Yes. Like for
to
example,
make that work.
For example, the Nora stem. When we sat down and talked about okay, what do we want this stem to look like? I want it to be angular and sort of kind of chunky and hard, and have some really cool contours and pockets, but some hard angles and some curved angles and things like that. And he sort of took my feedback and created something I would have never even dreamt up.
Sick.
In my head, I was like, all right, I know I want it to just have this kind of I don't know, hard angle sort of look to it, and he was the one that did all that. But then the offsets, the 32, 37, 42, the fork matching
actually,
offsets.
that's an interesting bit.
Yeah, that's his concept and his idea.
And why was that?
Well, actually, it wasn't his idea, but it was Transition developed short offset forks, and when they sort of launched that SBG back in the day, which was, I don't even know how many years ago, but it doesn't really matter. But anyways, when they launched that, they, in their marketing and then sort of in their design characteristics of that bike, is they recommended that you run a stem that is as close to the offset fork, your fork offset, as possible, to give the bike the best steering characteristics. And that, Luke was like, well, why don't we just why don't we just match the fork offsets with our stems? It's
That's pretty
37 and 42. That's a 5 millimeter increment. 32 is the shortest you can make a stem before the handlebar hits your steer tube.
Yeah.
And so, those are like perfect 5 millimeter steps. And it was like a no brainer. Like, why the fuck isn't anybody else doing this? Now other people are doing it.
Well, it still sets you guys apart.
Yeah.
Who else is doing it?
One Up has a 42 offset
Cool.
stem. There are other brands out there that are doing 42 offset stuff now too.
None of those big box boys, though.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. So anyways, Luke he does a lot of that side of stuff. I give a little bit of guidance.
Yeah. So you guys just work naturally good together because you had a vision and then he created something you could have never imagined, which is now the Norris stem, which is so sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with the pedal. It was like, I knew we both knew that we wanted a symmetrical pedal, which means that, when you stand on the pedal, the spindle is perfectly in the center of the pedal, where a non-symmetrical pedal, the spindle is offset back. And so by having it symmetrical, you can have the largest footprint for your foot to stand on a pedal, and but without having contact with the ground. It's the most amount of contact with your shoe to the pedal that you could potentially have.
Is there also something, like, I'm not an engineer, but does that also translate to reversibility of the pedal each side? Or is that the same even if
They'll
it's
be the
offset
same no
because
matter
they
what.
move?
I mean, they're mirror images of any pedal.
Okay.
But it just allows you to have
A larger
really good
footprint.
contact, and your foot is nice and centered over the spindle. And then, again, I was just like, well, how can we design something that is both like hard angles and nice, smooth curvature, and so he sort of helped helps drive a lot of that sort of stuff. And again, I don't even sketch shit on a piece of paper, because I just go, I want it to have some hard angles, or we we'll look at what else is out there, and sort of, and that, like the Occult and the Omen were inspired by a lot of different pedals, like some people do draw conclusions to or similarities to the T-Mac, and the T-Mac is symmetrical. There are things we liked about the T-Mac, but there's also things we didn't like about the T-Mac.
Yeah.
It was more wide than it was long, which didn't make a lot of sense to us. We're like, it should be longer than it is wide, because you don't want a pedal sticking out past your shoe to snag rocks when you're cornering and things like that. So, we opted for a longer and narrower pedal and a symmetrical pedal. But then we also really liked One Up's pins. I actually reached out to One Up and was like, to John, who works up there, and I was like, hey, where do you get your pins? Are those your pin, or are those pins that you get from a supplier? And if you do get them from a supplier, would you share that supplier with us? He wrote me back. I was like, I asked around. Product department doesn't want us sharing that information, but yeah, we like our pins too.
So they didn't share their design with where they sourced them from.
Yeah, so we ended up having to tool our own pin as well. But
the Tenet pins, though, are pretty awesome.
They're sharp. They're grippy. And then, the other thing was creating it so that you could run both pins, because some people don't like super grippy pedals.
Yeah, some people like the grub screws. Yeah. But it's also fun to experiment, because I've ridden a lot of different pedals, and it seems like the Tenet pedals in each direction maybe have one more screw than other pedals that I've ridden. Mm-hmm. And I like that, because you can take some out and you can move them around, and you can manipulate your feel based on what you're doing, which I think is really cool for those of you out there riding Tenet stuff, and you want to if maybe you think that the grip is too much, play with it. Totally. Take a pin out and see where you want float and where you want grip. Yeah,
you can also, the pins come with washers, so you can shorten the pin height,
which is so cool.
That comes with grub screws, so you can swap some pins out for grubs. Talus runs.
I've never done that.
Yeah, Talus runs grub screws in the middle portion and then pins on the outer portion, and he's got his own reasons why he does that. And
that actually makes a lot of sense. That just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, So
Should try
I don't know. It is a very fine tunable, adjustable product.
Yeah.
You know.
It definitely comes with all options, which is cool. It comes with both, and it comes with washers. And I've never seen that on any other product,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
a unique to Tenet
It
thing.
is unique. Yeah. But other than that, yeah. Anyways, I don't remember where we were going from that, but
We were just talking about product.
yeah. And Luke.
Um,
we were talking about
Yeah,
Luke.
we're talking about Luke.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Luke has a lot of say and
Yeah.
play in what the product looks like.
Yeah, and I would love to have Luke on here
We
to talk
should.
about his history, because he's got a lot of history with just being in the bike industry for a long time, and he's old. He's older than I. He's in his 50s, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
he's
He
still
doesn't look it.
no, he looks so much younger than he is. Not that you're old, Luke. Sorry, but
Fucking hag.
yeah. But yeah, no, I think we were talking kind of just about like my role in the company, and just sort of like, Luke does the engineering and I kind of do everything
Yeah,
else.
you're kind of a everything guy.
Yeah. I think a lot of people sort of look at the brand and they, from the outside, or from an outsider's perspective, you don't really know anything about the company. You would assume that people are always like, oh, I always thought there was like, you guys had like 15 or whatever, 30 employees. I thought you were a much bigger company than you are. And that's kind of by design a little bit, So like, sort of like act how you want to be, or what pretend to be what you want to be, or,
I mean,
whatever
you've been able to
is.
get a lot done as one person. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
As much as we don't know where your micro HDMI cables are, like, the product is awesome. It's all right here behind this door, honestly. And people getting it. You've got distributors. It's out there. And like, the brand is growing. And that's just all crazy. That it's just all happening here in this little yard.
I know.
From this
guy.
guy.
Is also a really weird place. Like, people that come here to pick up product or drop pedals off or refresh or whatever are just like, I couldn't find it for the longest time, and then I saw the sign on the side of the metal shipping container. It's like, yeah we operate the business out of a shipping container. We're in a shipping container right now.
Right now.
Yeah. So,
Tyler is very handy.
Yeah.
It's an old scrapyard, recycling yard.
Yeah, it used to be a scrap yard. There was some shady shit that used to go on at this place. The guy that ran it was crazy.
Give us the lowdown.
I used to bring my scrap metal here
Nice.
before, like, whatever happened to that guy. I don't know what happened to that guy. I heard the story.
He probably got scrapped.
Yeah. I heard a story from the people next door. I went in to buy, there's like an electrical place next door. I went in to buy some shit, and I was talking to them. They're like, oh, you move in next door? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, we're so happy that you're there now. Like, it's not the old dude that's there, the scrapyard anymore. I was like, really? Why? He's like, oh, that guy was like selling meth out of the office there. And apparently he blew his house up. Like,
Nice.
and so he was living here. He was like living on site here. Yeah, so there's some like, it was definitely an interesting scene going on here before I came in. But,
Nice.
And now, it's like I have big dreams for what I would like to do with this, but I think it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, I also have bigger dreams than maybe what this property could even provide,
Oh,
So,
that's fun and new.
yeah, well, I mean, like eventually, like machining our own parts in-house and stuff like that would be something that's a big goal for me, and I don't think that's possible here. It's not possible here.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless we
we'd have
build
to
a building here.
create a whole facility.
Yeah.
And this is not that
Yeah.
large of a yard.
Yeah.
But on that note, I have so many questions. So let's kick
Okay.
it back to, like,
Sure.
why did you start Tenet? What were your like main tenets that you started this company by? Like, what have you held true to this whole time?
Well, the reason I started Tenet was, so I worked, working for Diamondback in the product department. I learned the ins and outs of manufacturing in Taiwan, and I made a lot of connections over there. The supplier that makes Tenets pedals today was somebody that I've worked with for over a decade. They were a supplier for Diamondback, and when you network over there, those relationships kind of last a long time. And I knew, I don't know, having worked at Diamondback, had a lot of ideas that got pushed aside, and it wasn't by my like Mike or anybody in there. It was other people in the sales department or higher ups that were maybe making decisions that were different than what I thought should have been made at Diamondback. And it was frustrating. It was super frustrating to work for a company and see them miss out on opportunities and just always fall behind everybody else when, like the release was a bike that we developed with Luke, and it took so long to get it out, but by the time it got out, we were ahead of the curve. When I was at Diamondback, the brand was ahead of the curve for that product, and they just took way too long to get it out, and by the time it came out, it was out of date.
Dang, that's crazy.
And so it got frustrating to like work and live in that environment. And so when I finally left, or we parted ways or whatever, I was kind of doing some self-evaluating, like, okay, I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't want to find myself in another situation where there was somebody that was going to tell me what I had to do or what the right decision was or whatever, and I had somebody directing, like making choices for me. And so I decided that I was like, okay, well, I want to start a company. So that's when I reached out to Luke, and there was actually another opportunity to buy a brand that was not doing too well. And I had contacted Luke about buying that company, like, hey, what do you think about this? And actually Luke was like, he had said, honestly, you're buying a lot of baggage there. Like, why not just start something fresh, and then you can make it exactly what you want it to be? And I thought that was really good feedback, And so I decided to just kind of said, fuck it. I got a severance package with Diamondback, and I just went all in and did a first production run of, our first run of product was open mold stuff, which a lot of brands do. It was product that was previously designed by the factory or whatever. Good product, good looking stuff. But then, as we got bigger and we started selling more stuff and the brand kind of grew, we knew that we wanted to develop our own stuff. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that the reason for starting a company was really rooted in the fact that I just wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then
that's cool.
What was the second part of that question again?
Well, I'm more curious on something you just touched on, which was like you got a severance package and you put it all into
starting a company.
This idea.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's unique.
Yeah.
Like, an average person would be like, well, shit, I need this to stay alive until I figure out the next thing.
Yeah.
And you took a huge risk, which is like probably something that sets you apart.
Yeah,
from
maybe.
Other people.
I don't know. I just viewed it as an opportunity. There was also another piece to that puzzle. It's kind of a funny story. Diamondback had a marketing. So they were going through a lot right before I got let go, or we parted ways or whatever. They laid off a bunch of people, and I was kind of on the chopping block. And they were liquidating assets, and they sold this 2011 Sprinter van, huge Sprinter. It was one of the demo vans.
Yeah.
And their marketing director at the time contacted me and was like, hey, you were talking about how you wanted to buy one of these vans one day. Do you want to buy one? And I was like, yeah, how much though? He's like, $3,500 for a 2011 Sprinter van.
What?
And I was like, done. So I had some money saved away. I went and bought it with cash, drove it home, peeled the vinyl wrap off of the van, cleaned it all up, and then sold it for $12,000.
No way. You didn't even use it for the company?
No, I flipped
sick.
it. And
you dog.
I flipped it, and I took also that. So I combined that money from
With
the
your
Sprinter
severance.
van and my severance package. And that was my seed money for Tenet.
So homie over there was looking out for you. He was like,
I think homie was looking out for his own interests because he was in a lot of trouble. I think the company was going through some financial issues, and they were like, oh shit, he was like, oh shit, I overspent my budget deeply and I need to recover as much as I can.
Well, you could have sold it for more.
Yeah, but I think he was just trying to get money as fast as possible.
Dang,
I don't
that's
think they
crazy.
wanted to sit around and wait for somebody to come kick some tires. I think he was just like, we need cash now, and I was willing to do that. So, but anyways, so I got that, and that was like part of the seed money. But yeah, I mean,
Dang, that's cool.
it was kind of a crazy, I guess, it is kind of crazy to think about, like taking your life savings and everything and just starting a company and just going, all right, here we go.
It's
Let's
a
just see
big
what
risk.
happens.
You have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I felt like it was the time, and I don't know. I looked at all the other brands out there and I was like, all right, well, there's all these other companies that are doing cool stuff, but how can I like maybe start a brand that has a different image, and a different voice and different look than what else is out there? That's a little more core,
Definitely
and,
something I was stoked on.
Yeah. And so then, here we are.
Here we are. How cool.
Yeah.
So back to the I guess the second part of the question originally was like, what were some of the key bits from which you like built this brand? Like, what did you want to stay true to? I know you do a lot of made in USA stuff. Like, want to talk about any of that?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I was originally designing the brand or coming up with the idea for the brand, a component company is a component company, right? Like there's a lot of them out there. They're all doing kind of the same thing, but with their own twists. And I think the thing that I was really I was hyper like focused on was just sort of brand image and just wanting to be a little more subtle and dark, metal inspired marketing, metal inspired like branding, and cleanliness, really clean lines, clean logo, clean everything, and sort of mysterious. I wanted like the brand to be just sort of like a little more mysterious, and and I also took a lot of inspiration from like skate culture and BMX culture and wanted to like inject that into the mountain bike world,
which is unique still, I feel like, because mountain bike is so mountain bike sometimes that it's
for sure.
Like I come from snowboarding, so I wish that there were more of that. So
Yeah.
another thing that attracted me to the brand was like seeing some of that.
Yeah, we talked
shine
a lot
through.
we've talked a lot about that over some of the podcasts over the years. But I think mostly it was just like trying to create a product or a brand that just was almost like just inspired by my own interests, something that I could be passionate about.
It's made by writers for writers, to take some of the stuff that other companies have done, but like you do it in your own way, which is I'm stoked on that.
And as far as like design of the product and stuff goes, like one thing that I think is really important to myself and Luke is that we create quality products. Like the evolution of our products is constantly like every production, something is getting better and better and better. There's a lot of brands that will create a product and they'll push it out into the world and then they won't change it for a very long time. They regurgitate it over and over and over again without fine tuning it.
Buy with crazy MOQs and they have to sell out a product.
Keep it in line for a very long time. Where, I feel like we've mastered the art of the running chain, like the running change it's called in the industry, where mid-production, like not mid-production, but in between productions, you're making modifications to a product to improve its quality or solve a problem that maybe was existing in the past that is, being applied moving forward. And I think we've done that a lot over the years, because I really give a shit about I want to put out the best product as possible. And I want to make sure that we are always going to be looking at how can we improve things, And then the other side of thing is like, I give a shit about where it's made. You asked about like can you speak on like U.S. manufacturing? And I like Taiwan is so good at what they do, and there's nothing wrong with producing products in Taiwan, but there are limitations that you have, like being able to modify products as fast or prototype or get stuff in development as fast as you can. Like you can't do it as fast out of Taiwan as you can in the U.S. Lead times are longer. You're paying duties. There's all these other aspects of working with international business that you don't deal with when you're making stuff in the United States. Communication breakdowns, things like that, quality control, all that stuff gets better when you start to produce stuff domestically.
Yeah.
And then you're also supporting your local community. It's important to me to make parts as close to home as possible. We used to make stuff in Bellingham. Now we're over in Kingston, still in Washington, just over on the island over there, or the peninsula over there. And they, and we're working with somebody who's also a bike rider. Like, he's passionate about bike stuff. He's the machinist. It's Lycan Precision, his name in the machine shop. Just, check him out. He's got a really cool social media. He's making all kinds of cool shit for the outdoor industry. Just having as much production with people who are also passionate about that stuff, I think it just fosters really cool relationships, and also just really cool brand story, and it's really relatable, and I think it's just a cool way to do business. Keeps me excited.
So you still have your Taiwan Connect. You're still doing a bunch there, but you're still adding bits of the supply chain into USA as much as you can. You got an anodizer here in Idaho, right?
Yeah, everything's machined at Lycan now. All the U.S. stuff is machined at Lycan and then sent to Idaho to get anodized and lasered, and they do a great job. Like when we got a colorway coming out with Blake that you'll see very soon.
Very excited about it.
But like when we're working with that, it's we can send them our goals, and it's very fast turnaround and they're flexible too. Like out of Taiwan, a lot of the anodizers, they have their set colors. You can't divert from them. You can't make a specialty color with them. They're very much like, well, these are what we offer.
Yeah. Which is another thing that sets Tenet apart, because you're looking for people to help you do it your own way.
Yeah.
And you're not taking your shit to the same place that everyone else is to make the same purple color.
Totally.
Instead, yours is deep
purple out of purple in the world of a lot of other brands is bright. And
it's the same purple. That's the thing that sticks out to me though too. It's like you can get this guy's purple or that girl's purple, but it's all the same.
Yeah.
But your purple and Hannah's purple is
Hannah's
unique.
colorway is super unique, and I think that was something that would have only been possible with a company like Anodizers. And the first sample that they sent us was bright purple, and
the same as everyone else.
Yeah, and I was like, no, dark.
But they were.
I was like,
they
darker,
were down,
like
they
10
were down
shades darker
to go darker.
And they did,
which is sick.
And they essentially mix black dye with purple dye to make that super dark. Oh, I'm just telling our trade secrets, but they do
it's
like
not like it's that.
Just
add black.
But they have a mixture of amount of black and purple dyes that they mix together to make it that really dark color.
That's sick.
So, but I mean, that's the thing is I kind of wanted to go against the grain a little bit with what other brands are doing as far as the colors of their products and the marketing and stuff like that. So I've kind of, I don't know, it's a little more of that punk BMX attitude being tossed into it.
Which is so sick too, because a lot of other companies, I mean, I heard a recent story of a company who was working with an athlete, a friend of ours. This is where I heard this story, who made some promises to them and then never signed them, and then ditched them for a big name athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's such a theme of what's the quickest way to get the biggest, to make the biggest thing, to get the most sales, and sometimes that's just not it.
No.
And it seems like Tenet to me, I mean, another reason why I'm with the brand and why we're doing this, why you see us doing all of this, is because it doesn't seem like you just give in to the quick fad or the hottest person that you can get for the least amount of money to get the most views. You are committed to more than just doing that, like other brands are.
I'm very particular about the people I want involved in the company, because I want to make sure that I'm working with the right people that live and breathe a similar ethos that the brand is. You could take the biggest name and it's important to me that those like the people that I place around me and the brand are people that are going to like live and breathe that brand to make it to it fits, like it needs to fit, right? You know, it's a puzzle piece.
Personality, lifestyle,
Yeah.
creativity, all of that stuff plays into who you choose.
Yeah. And like Hannah, what I really appreciate about Hannah is, you know, she was the first person I ever sponsored, and this was back way in the early days of Tenet, and like I think she even in our podcast, she even was like, "Oh yeah, you were my first sponsor," you know. Just kind of crazy
cool.
to think about.
Before Kona?
I feel like she was on Kona Supremes or whatever before.
It was more of like
me,
a group per se
I don't
than
know.
a sponsor. Anyway.
But anyway, so, you know, what I saw was just raw talent with Hannah. I mean, she was also incredibly humble, so nice, and just a good representation of a human being. Like, she's just a good human being. And I want the people that I have on my team to be approachable. Like, I want people to be able to like come up to you or like you and just be like, "Oh, I'm so stoked on what you do and whatnot," and like you be an approachable person, you know. And Hannah is like that, and you're like that. Talis is like that. Like, you know, like the people that are in that are ride for the company are all very much just genuine human beings that are approachable and really sort of they have their own goals and whatnot. And I just want to support you and everybody else that's on the team and help you achieve goals and be the best versions of yourself. And that benefits my brand. You know, when you guys are like living out your dreams, and, you know, I mean, Hannah's a perfect example of that. You know, it was like, I didn't know that Hannah would ride for Red Bull one day. I didn't care if she did, you know. What I really cared about was the fact that I was like, holy shit, this girl's insane. She's riding every gnarly feature in town and just pure raw talent, and also a really kind human being that will sit there and talk to you about not bikes. You know, like, you know, it's like,
she's a sweetie.
Yeah, it's like, I was just like, I just want her to be a part of the brand, you know. And so anyways, that's kind of what really drives the athlete choice, and also like having a diverse, eclectic group of people is really important to me, because I think like bringing different cultures into the brand is only going to help the brand be authentic and just emulate diversity, and will just be a more, you know, like we'll be able to just be more authentic and not so, you know, I don't know,
this or that, or focused or core on whatever is Crankworks. And I don't talk shit on Crankworks. I participate in Crankworks, but I'm just saying, like, some of the big names and stuff, and doing the big thing. And it's more than just that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's cool.
So,
Sick. I do have one more question. Let's hit it right now.
Okay.
Quick.
You have one more question.
Quick pause in the middle. We're going to go back to the game because it's fun. I got one more question because this game is in 3 parts.
And I have to answer this in one word.
This is a one word, but this particular one is fun. It is describe your relationship with your father using only hand gestures.
Okay. I don't even know where to begin with that.
Just start doing it.
Okay. I have no idea.
Sports.
Yeah. Oh, and maybe like.
You smoke weed with your dad?
I have smoked weed with my dad. I got a funny story about smoking weed with my dad one time.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So I moved one time. I came home from.
Turns out, when you're Tyler Deschaine, the one-word answer turns back into the rants.
Yeah.
But we want to know.
Yeah. We'll try to keep this story short. But I came back from. So I smoked weed very, very occasionally growing up. I'm not a big stoner. But anyways, I smoked weed occasionally, and I had a bag of weed in a drawer in my bedroom at my parents' house. And I came home from Austin. I was gone for a long time, and came back in the spring, and so I was back home, and I was actually helping work on my sister's car. She had this Jetta that had problems anyway, so I was working on my sister's car, and my mom comes in and is like, "Hey Tyler, can you come out on the back porch?" I'm like 19 at this point. And I'm like, all right. So I go out on the back porch, and my mom goes, "Is this yours?" And she's got a pipe and a bag of weed. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, "Can you sit down?" And I'm like, yeah. So I sat down thinking like, whatever, I'm fucking 19 years old. Like, are you gonna get mad at me about having weed? And then my dad just like grabs it and like lights it and takes a hit and then passes it to me.
What?
And I was like, what the fuck? I started laughing. And my dad is just like, "Oh yeah, the power went out one night and I was looking for batteries. So I came down to your bedroom, was rummaging through your drawer, and I found your stash." It's like, "Oh, sorry." He's like, "I owe you a little bit of weed or whatever." So,
What?
yeah. So over the years, him and I, like around, typically when I go back home or whatever, we'll smoke a joint or something around a campfire.
Mom was there too, though?
Yeah. She doesn't really smoke a lot of weed either.
So mom was
but-
like, "Sit down."
Yeah. They were just
And
kind of
she
fuck
was
with me.
just like, "I'm going to have you smoke with your dad."
My dad one time also tried to he's like, "I couldn't find your bowl, so I smoked out of a pop can." They like smoked out of a pop can one time. I was like, "No, you can't do that."
Yeah, I don't think that's really
wrong. It's
safe.
real bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to inhale aluminum.
Oh, man.
Anyways,
Nice.
that's a funny story.
That's a fun story. Well, that's the Pit Viper card game. Freaking love it. Let's wrap this up and talk about what we're doing with the brand moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward, lots of projects coming down the line. I also want to like take a moment to just sort of like thank everybody that supported Tenet up until this point. It's been a wild journey. The Christopher Nolan thing, just everything, developing products, dealing with COVID, all that stuff. It's been a crazy, crazy, crazy time. And we're still here. We're still doing this. And Tenet is growing, bit by bit. And my hope is that next year I'll be able to, I really wanted to start employing people and opening up my, not doing it all. There's like me and,
Delegation.
Yeah, delegate stuff, and I think that once I start delegating stuff, I'll be able to the brand will just get better.
For sure.
But yeah, there's some like hardcore supporters that have been out there over the years that have multiple sets of pedals and bars and stems and whatnot on many bikes, and it feels amazing, especially when you go out and you just random people are riding your parts. It's fucking cool. And
yeah, they're all over Bellingham.
yeah, and
we got a good
I'm really
scene
lucky to I intentionally moved here because of the scene, so I give a shit about the riding scene here, like building trail and building jumps, and all that stuff is important to me, and trying to give back to the community as much as I possibly can, putting on shows and stuff like that. It's like fun stuff, and I can't do any of that without the people that buy the parts. So I want people to know that when they spend money with our company, you get something back out of it other than just bike parts.
Sure.
It's a culture, and I want people to really, if you dig the company, you know who you are, and your support does not go without me like noticing. So I really care about that, and so I really thank you everybody for that. Moving forward, I have big dreams, man. I would love to hire more people, develop more product, put on more shows. I want to start machining stuff in-house and developing product more like in-house on our own machines. And, I think the opportunities are limitless, and I don't want to put any like asterisk on like, oh, we are this and we'll never be anything else. I think it's sort of, the ceiling is, I can't see the ceiling, who knows where it is.
That's cool. There's a lot coming down the pipeline. Colorways, products, expansion.
Yep. There's some cool stuff happening in 2024. There's some stuff that'll be coming very soon. Blake, you got a colorway that's fucking awesome. Matter of fact, we needed to do some more photography. I know you're.
Tyler has a weird
I hit
idea
up. I hit
for
up
me.
Blake and I was like, "How are you with body paint?"
Do you want to see my body modeling bike parts? Let's do it.
She's like, I feel like you're fucking with me right now. But, you know, I like to do shit different, man.
Whatever that means, I guess we're going to do it.
I told her, I said, have I ever let you down? And she just laughed at me. Which I don't know if I should take that as offensive or not.
The laugh itself is confusion.
Yeah. No, but a lot of cool shit. And
Heck yeah.
I really look forward to continuing on, you know? So, but yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
Maybe we'll sit down and have a second round of this where we ramble less and are more focused.
No, this was a good podcast. I'm psyched that we got to get you on and hear some of these inner details. I feel like I even learned a lot.
Yeah.
Just right here sitting in this seat. So
yeah,
that's cool.
And if anybody has any questions for me personally, like, again, I do all of it. So if you leave a comment below and you have a question about the company or whatever, happy to answer it in the comments. And
for sure. I feel like this pod is still small enough that like we've probably interacted with most of the people who even listen to it, period. So like
I did one time run into somebody. I was snowboarding at Baker and I was trying to hitchhike going back up, and somebody pulled over and let me in, and I got in. I was like in my goggles and my helmet, and I was like, "Oh, dude, thanks for giving me a ride." And he like turned around. He's like, "Whoa, you're the Tenet guy, the podcast guy." I was like, "What?" He's like,
that's
"Yeah."
kind of
like,
funny that someone like has their initial like brand recognition through the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's new.
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, dude, I listen to your podcast. It's really sick." It was cool. Hopefully that guy's still listening. So
please listen to us.
Yeah, tell your friends too. You know, we want to try to get out to more people.
Yeah.
Also, listen to all the other episodes. Go back, and there's some really great ones. There's one with Blake here. There's one with Doug. Yep. There's some really great guests that we've had on here. And if you have any suggestions for guests, please.
Yeah, throw those in the comments, honestly. We're like adding a little list of people that we'd love to see on here and talk with. So
yeah. This is coming out on New Year's, so Happy New Year's, everybody. And I'll let you, it's your job to close this out, so you gotta close it out.
Yeah. Thank you for coming to another episode of the Tenet Interrogation. Good night.
Play that music, Doug.